Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is William Temple, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ampotech. Today, I'm going to be sharing about building an intelligent and secure grid edge. The overview of what I'm going to be covering is introducing what is the grid edge. I'm going to be talking about how smart buildings and the smart grid are
Hello, Mr. Wong Ki-moon, Kong Wee-moon. Nice to meet you. Can you hear me well?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you as well. I am Chelsea from DMG Events, who will be working with the NTU team in order to organize spikes today. So
Okay.
later, we are going to have the moderator, the MC, to introduce the speakers. And then once you are introduced, you can turn on your camera and your video and start sharing your screen.
Okay, so before that I turn off my camera, is it?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Okay.
So anyway, so it's good that you joined early, so I can see and make sure that your audio and your video, everything works great. Yep. So yep. So now you can already just turn off your video and your audio, and we'll just wait a bit until it's your turn, then you can turn on. Thank you. And hi, Peter. Nice to see you again. Can you hear me well? You are on mute.
Yeah. Now you can hear me.
Great. Yes, I can hear you great now. Yep. So yeah, so just a quick reminder again that later when it's turn for your presentation, then you can just start sharing your screen. But before it's your turn, then you can still turn off your audio and your video, and just do your own thing until the MC has introduced you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And nice to meet you too, Chidesh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi.
Yes, yeah. And I can see that everything is all good for you as well. And we have another. Hello, Ian. Nice to see you. Can you hear me?
Hi, Chelsea. Sorry. Yeah.
Yep. So great. So yeah, so just a quick reminder again that after our check right now, you can turn off your video and your audio until it's the MC has introduced you, and then you can turn on and also share your screen. Yeah. Hi, Ernie.
Chelsea,
Yes.
you can hear us? You can hear us. This is a terminal that we're using from the Specs Program Office. Hi,
I can hear you. But I think because your microphone is not very close to you, I don't think the sound quality is very good.
Oh, we have.
I mean, I can understand you, but the sound, it sounds a bit like diffused. It's not very clear. And hello, Ernie. Can you turn on your video so that I can make sure that everything is all good?
Hello, I'm not using my computer right now, so yeah. That should be fine. I think we tested earlier. Yeah.
So you are going to join with another device again later for your session?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm outside right now.
Chelsea, just a sound check. What about now? Is it still very diffused?
Yes, I think that is better already. Cool.
Okay,
great.
so now we are running from the mic here.
I see. And hello, Mr. Tim Lin, nice to meet you. Can you turn on your audio just so I can make sure that I can hear you well?
Yes, testing 1, 2, 3, 4. You can call me Z Thiam Lin. Yeah.
Z Thiam Lin. Okay, thank you. Yep. So just a quick reminder again that we have make sure everything is all good. So you can turn off your audio video until our moderator here has introduced you, and then you can turn on again and share your screen and start your presentation.
Okay, so I can turn off now. I wait until I think like close to 2 o'clock, 1:50.
Yes, when he introduced you. By turn off, I mean you still remain on the call, but you just mute yourself and stop the video.
We'll do that.
So Chelsea, my speaker Prof Lee is informed, and he will join and so now.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
If he
it's for me,
joined
yeah.
midway, then I would advise that he stop his video and mute himself until it is.
Yeah,
his
I have
turn to
already
speak, and
told
then-
him. I've already told him. I told him actually to join us at 12:50,
Yeah.
which was the instructions, but maybe
That's correct.
it's a bit late. But just watch out for it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep, I will certainly in
Yeah.
the room. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Hello, Dr. Lee, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me, Mr. Oh Seung Lee?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, great. Can you adjust your camera down so that I can see more of you? Yep, okay, I think that's better. Okay, so you now you can turn off your video and mute yourself until our moderator here has introduced you, then you can turn on again. Okay, thank you. Hello, Mr. Xing Yang. I can see that your video is on good. Can you turn on your audio so that I can hear you?
Hello, hi.
Hi, okay, that's great. So how we're going to do things is that, please remain off like that until you are introduced, and then you can turn on and share your screen of your presentations. And we are playing some background music so that like you can make sure that your audio is on good. If you cannot hear the background music, then let us know. Okay, I think we are going to go live in 2 minutes. So everyone except the moderator are advised to turn off their video and audio, and our moderator will be the first person to speak. Moderator, please speak and put your screen on full screen mode. Please unmute.
Test.
Testing. Okay, that works.
Okay.
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 I think say it's good.
So which one is?
The PowerPoint. Let's play the PowerPoint. Do you see the PowerPoint? Okay. Hi, sorry for the technical issue. Let's start again. So thanks for joining us today. I'm Marcus. I'm actually the program director for SPECS, Smart Grid and Power Electronics Consortium. So today we'll have two sessions. Session 1 is primarily on strategic partnership, and session 2 is on electrification and decarbonization. So for all attendees here, thank you for participating today. All the slides presentation that has been approved by the speakers, we will allow you to download from the SPECS webpage, provided that, of course, you fill up the feedback form at the end of the day. And at the same time, we will give you that email with the password to download from the SPECS webpage. So allow me to start the session here today as part of the Asian Clean Energy Summit in conjunction with Singapore International Energy Week. So welcome all of you again. So the webinar will start now with first by allowing me to introduce the first speaker. All right, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Wong Wai Man to deliver his presentation on partnering Singapore public sector. Now, Mr. Wong is actually the Chief Executive Officer of Singapore Cooperation Enterprise, in short called SCE. Mr. Wong is appointed to this role since 2012. He leads the public sector collaboration project with foreign governments to build foreign relationships and spin-off opportunity for Singapore private sector. Let's welcome Mr. Wong. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let me just share my screen. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let me just proceed. Thank you again, SPECS and NTU for inviting me to this webinar. So I'll just in a way introduce SCE, who we are, what we've been doing, and maybe a bit of our value proposition that how we've been working with other countries. So I think actually, just to go back a bit to how we were formed, I think some of you may already heard about SCE because in fact I just saw the list. In fact, we have been working with quite a number of the companies and even the agencies here. We were formed originally by MFA and MTI Singapore, and really it was formed primarily as a concept by then ESM Goh Chok Tong, to actually bring together a wealth of public sector expertise and resources from across Singapore, where I think he has gotten so many interests from overseas on how Singapore managed to succeed as a nation. So I think that's where I think he had this idea to where we could form a certain agency like ourselves, where we can bring together these experts and resources from Singapore to turn some of these requests into opportunities for our private sector. Yeah, so I think we have been working with how we actually work. We work with foreign governments, multilateral organizations, and even foundations to fund the project work that we do with these emerging markets. And we operate on a cost recovery model. So our mission essentially is to lead in public sector collaboration projects overseas using a government-to-government model, and with two key objectives. One is to build long-term partnerships with foreign governments, and the second is to generate economic spin-offs for Singapore's private sector. Now, how do we work and how have we been working, I think, with other foreign governments, and what's the value proposition to them? I think a lot of foreign governments view us as a single window of access to Singapore's public and private sector expertise. So at least from a government-to-government standpoint. So I think in the past, foreign governments, if they come to Singapore, they would have to look to different agencies and ministries if they wanted to, tap on different expertise from Singapore. But I think for SCE, we offer like a single window to them where they just tap on one single agency, and where we can then aggregate the expertise from across the different agencies, be it current agencies or even former civil servants whom we tap on. And also, we work a lot with Singapore companies who are also involved in Singapore's development journey in the past. So I think we bring all this together to actually implement projects and solutions for foreign governments. So I think one of the key things that we need to know is that I think Singapore's experience is unique to Singapore. However, I think what we can say is that we will have to adapt Singapore's unique experience to see how it can be worked to deliver a workable solution overseas. So the key thing is in all these foreign countries and emerging markets, the opportunities are there, but of course, what the solutions that we have to deliver has to be customized and adapted to the local environment. And how have we been doing that for in our different engagements? I think there are 3 levels of engagements that we primarily engage with. One, the lowest level is the capacity building and study visits, where it's a very natural platform where we host officials to Singapore. We bring them around to see our companies as well, even our agencies, and we bring them to actually showcase Singapore's expertise in these areas. And secondly, after these visits or even after these training programs, they are interested to know more and even to do more. They say, why don't we form a team from Singapore to go down to the country? And that's what we do. We actually form a team of experts, be it our people from our ex-civil service that we bring along who are actually the pioneers. I think in Singapore's development journey, we bring them along, and we actually advise these governments to actually on how they can actually facilitate or even accelerate their own development journey in that particular ministry. So I think that's where we do advisory work and consultancy work. And thereafter, I think at the highest level is where I think if they are interested in the Singapore solution or a Singapore adapted solution, that's where we actually bring in our private sector companies and sometimes even still our public sector agencies, to where we actually aggregate both together to actually implement solutions on the ground, on site, in the countries itself. So really, it's from basic knowledge transfer to actually more complex turnkey solutions that we actually get involved in. Thus far, I think SCE has exported around 63 types of public sector expertise. We cut across 6 key domains. I think that we can classify the sort of work that we have done, the domains that we have done. One is urban industrial planning and development. So this one we have done a fair bit in the urban planning as well as the housing, and these are areas that Singapore has done relatively well in, especially in the public sector. So it also includes the transportation as well as airport. Hello, yeah. So I think we actually we also work with other foreign countries to actually see how they can improve their economic development, and that it involves studying the ease of doing business, how easy is it or the investment policies and promotion that some countries would need to do. So I think that's what we actually help them in coming up with plans as well as the sort of policies that will help their countries develop there. Another area which is pretty broad is the public sector reform and governance. So this is a broad area where a lot of public sector agencies overseas, they would like to learn more about how we have actually structured our own public sector agencies and even how we have reformed our public sector agencies. So it includes a lot on setting up similar agencies in these foreign governments. For example, setting up a similar EDB or setting up even a central provident fund there. So those are things that we have done in different countries around the world. I think the next areas that we have done a lot of work in, especially on the implementation part, is digital government and smart cities. So this is one area that I think a lot of countries are of very keen interest, and that Singapore has also done relatively well in. So these are areas that, in terms of digital solutions, e-business or e-licensing or online e-services, those are things that we have done a lot with foreign governments, where we've actually implemented solutions on the ground for several of them. On the education side and the water side, those are also areas that we have gotten a lot of requests on. We've done mainly capacity building programs and consultancies here, although we would say that we hope that we can progress this beyond to even implementation type of projects. So I think one area that I think we have yet to really embark on, which is actually why I'm at this session, is on the power side, on the energy side. So definitely that's another area that perhaps Singapore, there is a way that we can use SCE as a platform where we can bring in our energy companies to actually deliver, energy projects or even energy-related projects on site in these different countries as well. So that is definitely one area that we are open to look at as well going forward. Okay, thus far, in terms of the work we have done, we have contracted around 237 million of work to no less than 225 partners in the public and private sector. So every dollar that I think that we use to fund our own operations, we generate around $7.21 in terms of revenue to our partners. So you can see it, the sort of coverage includes both the public sector partners as well as private sector partners, and we've done, in fact, a fair bit of work, a lot in the private sector space as well. So that's where we aggregate both public and private together to implement these solutions. I think just to highlight our partnerships, I think we have pioneered market entry for numerous companies, especially in emerging markets. I think one of the things that is SCE's usually the scope or exposure, market exposure is actually all the emerging markets in the world. So we are pretty well, we cut across the worldwide markets quite a fair bit. In fact, most of the companies, in fact, more than 50% of the companies that we have brought along, they really did not have any prior projects in the market. And that's where I think from using a government as a first line of entry, where we can actually use that government front and we can actually bring in our private sector players from Singapore. And that's where I think our value add is, because we can help them navigate these emerging markets and even help them, implement together, hand in hand, these projects together. So that's what we do. We are more project managers or project directors in that sense. We are also a risk mitigation tool for partners. I think, like what I mentioned, we primarily are in the unfamiliar and more emerging markets across the world. We also, in a way, collect fees for our partners, because SCE, one of the roles that we do is we actually contract with foreign governments as a main contractor. And then we, of course, subcontract the work to our private sector companies, as well as even our experts in Singapore, which we aggregate together. And that's where I think on a government-to-government front, I think that's where I think the government-to-government card is very important in terms of ensuring that the project progresses, as well as that the partners or even the foreign governments actually pay for the work that has been done. So I think that's where I think we have, in terms of one of the key value adds that we have. Again, we also generate a lot of secondary spin-offs for our partners in these new markets. I think Sabana Jurong is here. I think we worked a lot with them, and in fact with some of the other GLCs as well. But we don't just work with the GLCs, we also work with the SMEs as well. Some of the more well-known SMEs, we also work with them to ensure that there are all these secondary spin-offs that after this initial entry into these emerging markets, they can actually go on their own to even do more work, either with that particular country or even in other markets around the same region. Okay, thus far we have our engagement stretches across 75 cities in about 56 countries over 5 continents. So we are pretty much across the world, but mainly in the developing market space. Yeah. Just to give you some flavor of some of the existing projects the current projects that we're doing now. In Fiji, I think we are doing a digital Fiji project, which is implementing a digital government system for the whole country of Fiji. So that means bringing in what Singapore has done in the digital government space, bringing all the solutions that I think in terms of the e-services and the online solutions, and how do we look at structuring their databases and all that and the IT systems. So this is a turnkey solution where the Fiji government actually asked Singapore or SCE to help them implement these solutions for the whole country. So what our role was, we actually were essentially program directors or program managers, where we brought in Singapore private companies like Crimson Logic, EasyQuera, and even we're looking at XNCS at some stage. Of course, we also supplemented that with our ex-civil servants from ex-IDA, ICA, and CB. These were the people who helped, in our initial formative years of Singapore in terms of digital government. So I think this, in fact, we are already near the tail end of the project, where we already implemented their e-services and solutions. We may be looking at another subsequent projects there, new projects in terms of ID cards and even the online business and construction permit systems. So those are new projects that we are currently in discussions with them. So just to give you an understanding of the sort of framework and the project governance or program governance that we actually go through. we actually have this governance committee that we form with the government, where it is chaired by their minister as well as myself as a co-chair. So we actually bring in at the highest level in terms of ensure that all the different ministries that are involved in the digital government field are actually represented. So that means from the Fiji side, they actually bring in all the different agencies that may be impacted by this digital government initiative. And we have a working level, DGMC, which is more the management committee. So there, I think we also bring in working groups from both Singapore's private sector, I mean, in the likes of Crimson Logic and those that we've been working with, as well as the working levels of the ministries involved. And in terms of working together to come up with the different solutions, as well as doing all the user acceptance tests and all that. So I think SCE, we are like the overall program director, actually the overall project manager for this whole system. Yeah, so I think really just to show you sort of things that we do, a lot of things that we do is on the program management part and the risk management part to ensure that the project still can run smoothly. So these are things that we do. We look at delivery timelines and all that. So we are pretty much very plugged into the program and project itself. Another iconic project that we have done, also currently underway, is in Mauritius. This one we've been working SMRT, I think, on this. In fact, I think they are here as well in the audience as well. We have actually, in fact, this goes a long way. We since 2012, we've been, engaged with them in doing a feasibility study of implementing a totally new, really greenfield Mauritius metro system. So I think that's where we first started off. We did a study for them. And thereafter, I think they asked us to actually start designing their route networks, and also doing the operational requirements study. So that was done in 2016. And that was also done with, in fact, a new government that took over, I think, since there was a government change. And the last phase that we actually are still going through now, in fact, is the delivery management and operational readiness services that we are doing. So this, in essence, is funded by the Indian government. But I think the whole idea is that they wanted the Singapore experience to actually project manage the whole, delivery process of it. So again, we brought in our SMRT to help in ensuring the quality of the work, as well as writing all the SOPs and also in planning their operations and even all the stations, I would say the evacuation plans and all these planning have to be done, all the emergency planning also has to be done. So all these were actually done, I think, through a Singapore and Mauritius government initiative. So you, of course, also brought in LTA through MSI Global, which is their consulting arm, SMRT, and some of the Oricon consultants as well, who actually deliver the consultancies. Just to highlight, I think this is a project that really started from an MOU signing, government-to-government MOU signing, which actually all went all the way to the actualization of the launch of the Metro Express, which is in October 2019. So in fact, this, as you can see, I think this was actually launched with a lot of fanfare. I think, in fact, there was the first train, in the picture there that went onto the track, and we all actually sat on the first train, and it was really good to see how all this could actually finally develop into something real for the whole country. Okay, last but not least, just another project on SEZ planning, which is special economic zones. I think just another example, we have done a lot of these sort of projects. We have planned basically with the help of Surbana Jurong as our private sector consultants to actually design and conceptualize and also done some feasibility studies for SEZ in the Republic of Congo, which is Oyo Olombo. So this covers all the different phases, the base mapping, the topography, the studies, of course, coming out the master plans and the reports, and also coming out even with the phase 1 implementation plan. Yeah, and of course, also helping them to market even their sites and even all that to even their citizens and even the other private sector players, local private sector players on the ground. I think just a few slides to understand our value. I think how we come in and the sort of value that we add. Like what I mentioned, we are like a single window of access for the foreign governments. This is from the foreign government's perspective. Through SCE, I think the whole idea is that our Singapore government's involvement lends credence and branding to the project. And of course, the quality assurance that comes with it as well. And I think for SCE itself, we are actually responsible for the overall management, integration, and delivery of the entire program. So I think we are there from the inception to the final deliverables and even beyond. So I think we are there with them all the way. So it's not like we don't just match make them and then leave, but actually we are like the full program management managers, as well as even the whole full contract managers. So I think that's the key value that we play. And we also help them in the transition even beyond to their own people when they take over the whole program and project as well. For companies that we bring along, I think one of the things that we have done well, work well with our companies, is in helping them mitigate and manage the risk in uncharted waters and uncharted markets. And of course, one of the key things that we do is, because we work on the government-to-government cooperation, we actually directly negotiate with the foreign governments on these projects. So there is no real tender required to actually secure these projects, where once we actually manage to negotiate with the foreign governments on the specs and even the conditions involved, and of course the budgets involved, we then start to subcontract this work to our Singapore companies as well. And of course, we also help collect revenue on their behalf, and also structuring the whole projects as well. And last but not least, in terms of value to our own government, I think all these projects, I think, is just a means to an end to really promote and develop the Singapore brand and mindshare abroad. I think, especially in all the new markets, I think that we are in. So we are like a front runner, especially in these emerging markets, where we will pave future partnerships and as well as develop the foreign relations there. And we also help to unlock, create jobs. I think for even our pioneer generation, people who are who are actually involved in Singapore's own development story in the earlier years, we actually still bring them along to actually help deliver and even share their knowledge, even with the new civil servants that we bring along as well. So it's like retraining opportunities for them and even our companies as well. So I think that's all I have for today. And thank you. I really look forward to ways that maybe we can start something on the power space, where we can actually work together on maybe on smart grid, or even on the energy space with foreign governments together.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. It's really exciting. And I definitely look forward to sit on that train together with you in the near future. And more importantly, to invite SPECS members to contact SCE. So thank you again, Mr. Wong. So let me now invite the second speaker. And it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jidesh Kambil, the Senior Manager of Market Development in Singapore Green Building Council, which is SGBC, to share his presentation on enabling the sustainability journey in Singapore. Mr. Jidesh is currently leading the market development team, while also developing smart products category under the Singapore Green Building Product Certification Scheme. All right, Mr. Jidesh, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this presentation. I'm going to try and give you a quick overview of SGBC and what we do in terms of enabling the sustainability journey in Singapore. So to begin, I think I would like to start by saying that we are Singapore's national representative to the World Green Building Council. It is a global network comprising over 70 GBCs across the world. And part of what we do in partnership with them is to drive sector impact through various global partnerships. So some of the key areas that we look at is, of course, climate action, resource efficiency, and health and well-being. And we have a lot of flagship programs such as Advancing Net Zero and Better Places for People, through which we try to drive this sector impact. Back in Singapore, we have around 420 members across the built environment value chain, be it from developers or financial institutions to consultants to product manufacturers, suppliers to the government organizations. So we have a lot of members in our corporate membership program. So this gives us a lot of opportunity to create a lot of collaboration and partnerships with key players in the built environment industry. So some of the key roles that we look at when it comes to SGBC is market transformation, which is all about leading the change and forging partnerships with industry. Okay, part of what we do is actually, like, we also work, for example, very closely with our good friends from NTU. There are many programs that we actually work together on, and I'm sure that there'll be many more programs to come. Capability building is another key aspect that we focus on at SGBC. This is all about upskilling and creating new opportunities for the green professionals, give them a pathway to, to become a more advanced in their knowledge, to find new skills that is relevant to the sustainability journey, and to give them an edge over the competitors. Another thing that we do is engagement and outreach. It's all about building awareness and alignment for societal impact. So it's all about reaching out to various people, various organizations, and trying to find the way to actually take this journey forward and to push sustainability in Singapore. So let's talk about engagement and outreach. So one of the main things we do is we have a very close working relationship with Building and Construction Authority, or BCA, in Singapore. And one of the key things that we work with them on is Green Mark. And all of our certification schemes are very well recognized under BCA Green Mark. So recently, we also worked on the Singapore Green Building Master Plan, along with BCA and several other industry experts from Singapore. So there's something that we are very happy to have put out, and there's some new targets that we aim to achieve, especially by 2030. Okay, there's some new targets coming in for 80% green buildings, then about the new buildings to a high of around 80% energy efficiency, etc. So a lot of things that we are looking at right now. And Green Mark 2021 is another thing that we are very happy to have worked on together. I think it's a good step in the right direction, and it's going to take Green Mark 2015 where it was and move forward and align itself with other global initiatives like the SDGs. So we also have a lot of partnerships with financial institutions. For example, with DBS, we were very much involved in creating the sustainability checklist for them when it comes to giving out green home loans. So what to look out for in a green home, in a green renovation. So what are the kind of things you should look out for? So we will work very closely with the DBS on this. Another program which was launched, I think in July, is Sustainability in Singapore. Again, this is something that we work along with BCA and other organizations. So this is about creating a behavior change through different programs. It's something that is that is work in progress right now. Another flagship program that we launched in July is the Built Environment Embodied Carbon Pledge. So this is something, again, that we're trying to push in terms of decarbonization of the built environment. So we all know that globally, the focus is shifting from energy towards carbon, and from operational carbon towards embodied carbon in buildings. So this is the path that, of course, everyone is going into right now. We have been the buildings industry. We have been the building industry's main hub when it comes to carbon knowledge since 2014, and we are taking the lead in trying to transform the industry. So there is a lot of programs that we're working on. We're working on several work groups to set baselines for carbon emissions and things like that for buildings, for carbon footprint for the buildings. So a lot of things to look forward to. So when you talk about embodied carbon reduction, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this. And basically, it's about talking about the amount of carbon emissions attributed towards the building construction, okay, and the products and materials that go into it, and the construction activity itself. So unlike operational carbon, which can be reduced even like during the operation stage while the building is in operation, embodied carbon is once you build the building, it's already locked in. So this is why we need to try and reduce it. And some of the things that we can do is you can opt for building materials with low embodied carbon. You can minimize the amount of materials that you need for the building. And of course, transform the construction site processes to utilize the resources more efficiently. So we have around 70 signatories already for this program in Singapore, and it's growing. So I think on a regular basis, we see a lot of new pledges coming in. So when it comes to capability building, again, we do set out a lot of different pathways and programs for the green professionals to actually take a leap forward when it comes to skill sets, which has a relevance to sustainability in the built environment. So a lot of activities, we conduct webinars, we have various partner events, we have also learning journeys, short courses, things like that. So there are many aspects, many avenues that we do provide for the built environment professionals. Something that we also launched recently is the SGBC Digital Academy. Before the COVID hit us, like, of course, we used to conduct a lot of physical events, but I think we realized that the time is right to probably come out with something that is more accessible digitally. So this SGBC Digital Academy has a lot of courses, and most of the webinars that we do conduct, we also do post back in this Digital Academy, and it's something that you can use to learn anytime, anywhere, right? So this is something that we think is going to be of great use for this, green professionals, especially when you have a busy schedule. Then you can do this at your own pace, at your own time. We do also offer a lot of different CPD courses with a key focus on carbon. Okay, so we have programs such as assessing carbon footprint of your organization, the building products. We also have something for sustainable supply chain for buildings, and there's many more coming. We have many more programs coming in the pipeline. So for market transformation, the main avenues that we focus on is actually the various certification schemes that we have, right? And what are the various things that we focus on? We focus on the building services, okay, which we're talking about the green consulting and contracting services, the various firms itself. So we tackle it from a firm perspective. A Greenmark professional qualification scheme that is for the green professionals. Okay, again, we provide various pathways for them to actually keep abreast of the latest knowledge and to find ways to upskill and push forward in their green journey. And then, of course, we have the Singapore Green Building Product Certification Scheme, which has been around for, I think, around more than a decade right now. So again, this focuses on green products and materials. So when it comes to Singapore Green Building Services, we have around 60 plus certified firms across the various spectrum of consultants and service providers when it comes to the built environment, the architecture, M&E, engineering, quantity surveying, facility management, etc., etc. So a lot of programs are there, and all this helps into profiling companies with this kind of specialist capabilities, and track records in green projects, which can actually make a contribution towards greener Singapore. Okay, and this not only is good for the firms, it also helps to strengthen the brand of Singapore and as a leader in sustainability. And not only that, of course, it also acts as a facilitating agent when it comes to going to international markets. Okay, it's also something that's good and helps some of these services to be recognized in international markets. So going to Greenmark professionals, we have around 900 plus professionals, like I said. So again, this is about profiling their skills, the kind of capabilities that they have, and how they can actually contribute towards this sustainability journey. We talk about upskilling the workforce and, of course, empowering them to deliver change in the sector. So when it comes to green building products, again, we have, like I said, we have around 4,200 plus certified products under 6 main categories, which is mainly architectural, civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, landscape, and smart. So this helps in curating sustainable options for building products and materials. So unlike the client, if they want to buy a green product, instead of going and doing all the research and finding out which product is better, we make it easier for them by giving the certifications, and we gave it on a tiered level so that we can rank it from good versus the best in the market. So it actually helps in curating these kind of options that we have. It also promotes healthier and safer living environment. And again, it enables the developers and owners to meet their targets. So in a nutshell, SGBP certified products are always eco-friendly, they're healthier, safer, and they're holistic. So some of the product categories that we have, like I mentioned earlier, is architectural, civil, structural, landscape, mechanical, electrical, and smart. So electrical and smart, I think, is something that will be of quite interest to the audience over here, maybe. So we have around 132 product categories, and it's growing every day. And under the smart product categories, this is what we have right now. So the one in yellow is like the main categories, and the one in the green is like the subcategories. So under smart lighting system, we have things like smart digital platform, controller devices, etc. So all this is about creating certification categories at a component level. So we do not just have one singular certification for a smart lighting system, for example, but for every component of the smart lighting system, we do offer certification opportunities. So when it comes to like smart meters, smart circuit breakers, for example, all these things is in the pipeline. So all the ones in white is the one that is marked for future development. So at the moment, we do have quite a few things, including smart IAQ control systems, etc. So I think there's a lot of things happening over here. And of course, the key attributes of SGBP certified products is always that we have the tiered rating system, which is, I think, unique in this market. Okay, so basically, you have to meet a minimum industry standards, and then of course you have to have best-in-class products, which gives you higher tick ratings. And one of the key aspects we look at is the higher energy efficiency in mechanical and M&E products. So when it comes to mechanical and engineering and electrical categories, one of the key differentiator is how much more energy efficient that product is. Of course, health and safety is a big thing. We should have very low VOCs and very low carcinogens, etc. Resource efficiency, again, is a must, like how the product is sourced and manufactured, okay, and where is the material, the raw materials coming from. All these things do matter. Life cycle assessment, again, we do look at the various programs that we have, whether the product at the end of life, is it recycled, is it reused, etc. So under SGB, under Green Mark, again, it's quite widely recognized under Green Mark 2015. You can also look at, find some relevance to it in Green Mark Healthier Workplaces. And in Green Mark 2021 as well, it has actually taken forward a whole lot more, especially when it comes to the various individual badges. There's a lot of things that you can scope for when it comes to some of our certification schemes. And of course, the main thing, of course, is smart products, which is a new category, is also included in the new Green Mark 2021. So if you have smart products that you think can contribute to smart buildings or smart infrastructure or smart cities, do contact us and we can always take it forward. So like I like to say is the future is smart. When you talk about smart grid essentials, you look at the key things like infrastructure, best energy efficient practices, transparent and credible monitoring analysis, and improve quality of life. Of course, no matter what you change, if it's not going to improve your quality of life, then it's not really going to be effective. But the ecosystem of reliable smart products, I think this is where we can actually come in and make a difference. We do have a lot of certification categories, and I think if there are some partners out there who would like to come and work with us and to develop new categories or to get certified, I think do feel free to reach out, and we look forward to taking this sustainability journey forward. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jadesh. It's very pleased to hear from SGBC. So before I announce the next speaker, just one correction. The Chief Executive Officer of Singapore Corporation Enterprise is Mr. Kong. So just one correction for that. That was my mistake. Thank you. So without further ado, let me introduce the next speaker. We'd like to invite is Mr. Chew Min Leong, President of Singapore Water Association, SWA, who will be presenting the topic Singapore, a Global Hydro Hub. By the way, Mr. Chew is also the President, Head of Urban Solution, ST Engineering. Mr. Chew is appointed to this role in January this year, and he leads the ST Engineering Group's global smart city business in the area of mobility, utilities, infrastructure, connectivity, autonomous, and sustainable solutions. All right, Mr. Chew, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, first, let me express my appreciation to the Smart Grid and Power Electronics Consortium Singapore for having Singapore Water Association to be part of today's seminar, in conjunction, of course, with SIEW and ACES. I think we all know that the most precious natural resource on Earth is water. And of course, less than 3% of the water on Earth is fresh, and only 1% is actually accessible. Water, therefore, is the world's most vital resource for sustaining life. Everybody knows that, and the most precious commodity that affects the quality of life. So for island city like Singapore, water supply is an existential issue, actually. And over the decades, we have been making a lot of significant investments in innovative methods of water resource management and technology, and maximizing essentially resource efficiency and recovery. And today, Singapore has overcome its challenges and become more self-reliant as far as water supply is concerned, and achieve essentially the status as a global hydro hub, which I'll explain a little bit more. Next slide. This table actually shows the 5 classifications of drinking water access. Water scarcity has led to over 1 billion people across the globe lacking access to clean drinking water. The world's actually limited water supply is threatened, of course, by many factors: rapid urbanization, population growth, industrialization, and now increasingly climate change. So we have seen water bodies being polluted, groundwater being depleted, and erratic weather patterns actually causing some stress in terms of the water ecosystem. And it's not always easy to predict when the next prolonged dry spell will be. So some 2 billion people in Asia are projected to face more severe water scarcity in years to come amid all this climate change uncertainties. In Singapore, out of necessity, all used water, of course, is collected, treated, and a large portion of it is actually treated to a very high standard, suitable for portable reuse. Next slide. And globally, 3 out of 4 people are, of course, affected by water stress. Actually, live in Asia itself. And although we have very good rainfall, ASEAN countries are also facing more frequent and more severe water shortages, again aggravated by population growth, urbanization, pollution, and now rising sea level. Ensuring water security is critical for all these countries, and this shown here are the top 10 Asian countries for total population and the proportion of population at risk from water shortages, flooding, and inadequate water supply. Next slide. So UN reported that 80% of the world's wastewater is also discharged without any treatment due to largely the lack of infrastructure and technical expertise. So today, the Water Global Practice is responsible for a portfolio of some $29 billion in the World Bank lending through something like 160 projects across the world. In fact, the fiscal year of 16 to 19, the World Bank supported more than 62 million people with access to improve water sources, and more than 13 million with access to improve sanitation. And here in Singapore, next slide. Actually, it is in our DNA in Singapore, from good governance to political stability, good infrastructure, IP law, and the list goes on, as you can see. This actually makes Singapore, the next slide, Singapore being one of the best places in the world, of course, to expand new market, of course, setting up new base with a good economic freedom score, as shown here in the 2021 index report. Next slide. And in fact, our founding father has basically, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, was very determined to drive Singapore towards water sustainability and making water a top priority in government policy. So since independence, new laws, public awareness campaigns, and policy for enforcement of sustainable practices and to educate people on environmental issues. So focusing on long-term sustainability with awareness of our vulnerabilities with our limited resources and climate change concerns, Singapore has transformed itself to a clean and green city-state with rapid growth and urbanization. Next slide. There are 5 building blocks for Singapore on the journey to becoming a water-wise city. Today, we have, of course, everybody knows, cleaner rivers with many parks all over the island. Main reasons for its success includes equal emphasis on water supply and demand management, long-term planning, and of course, strong political will to implement water plans, effective legal and regulatory frameworks, as well as a very experienced and motivated workforce, and the management of the entire water cycle by PUB, Singapore National Water Agency. Next slide. I think we all know Singapore Island City-State, 716 square kilometers, 5.6 million population. So we don't have enough land to basically collect and store all the rainwater. We do face drought, floods, water pollution in the early years of nation building. So these challenges basically inspire us to strategies and seek very innovative ideas, develop capabilities, and secure a very sustainable supply of water. Today, of course, everybody knows Singapore has reached 100% access to clean water and modern sanitation. Next slide. As our water supply network continues to expand to meet growing demand, of course, we'll be faced with challenges going ahead, such as growing, rising public expectation, and of course, I think increasingly reducing workforce. The increasing water demand and the threat of climate change also, I think, has ranked Singapore first amongst the countries at the highest risk of high water stress by 2040. But next slide. Singapore has basically worked to make very robust and diversify our supply of water with the 4 national taps. Singapore aims, of course, to be self-sufficient in water by 2060. And while water consumption could double from today's level, with the non-domestic sector accounting for some 70%, we now have new water and desalination contributing to something like 65% of our water supply. As water demand increases in tandem with growth, we must continue, and we will continue to invest in research and technology and develop innovative solutions. By 2060, new water and desalination is expected to meet 85% of our future water demand. And one of the best examples demonstrates Singapore's commitment to sustainable development is obviously Singapore's water story. And over the years, we have taken very decisive steps to ensure safe and secure supply of water and maximize resource efficiency and recovery. Next slide. So known for our expertise in integrated water management, we have become essentially a global hydro hub, a world-class center essentially for knowledge exchange in water technologies and reaffirming Singapore's commitment to water security and sustainability. The aim as a global hydro hub is to promote water research and development and also grow the industry and position Singapore as a global R&D base for water solutions. Today, despite being a small island with very limited resources, Singapore is internationally recognized as the model city for integrated water management and, of course, an emerging global hydro hub, a leading center for business opportunities and expertise in water technologies. As per the PUB industry report in 2019, there are some 200 water companies, 25 R&D centers, which actually call Singapore home today. Next slide. So Singapore water industry is set to grow further with a $200 million boost, I think, for NRF under the RE 2020 plan. So bring total R&D funding for water to some $617 million over 15 years. To meet the evolving challenges of the future, we will obviously continue to invest in R&D to make water production process more climate resilient and resource efficient. We hope that the water industry in Singapore can, I think, continue to contribute. In fact, we expect they contribute something like $3 billion in value added to the economy and create 15,000 jobs as envisioned. Next slide. In terms of R&D facilities for test bedding, PUB has done a great job where they fuel some 180 such projects to date for new water, water reclamation, and water treatment. Next slide. And in fact, with the rapidly evolving digital landscape, coupled with, I think, smaller and increasingly educated workforce, there are opportunities for startups in the water sector to maximize productivity, enhance operational reliability and security within the water loop. PUB actually also has embarked on integrated smart water loop that enable us to reuse every drop of water by recycling it endlessly to monitor the performance and health of our water drainage and used water networks with extensive sensors using IoT devices, data analytics, and of course automation through robotics. Next slide. So LandsGas as Singapore has made us rethink about the water infrastructure design for greater land efficiency. In fact, the phase 2 of the deep tunnel sewage system is targeted to complete by 2025. When completed, it will shrink the land occupied by used water infrastructure by 50%, while reducing energy consumption and sludge production, ensuring that every drop of used water can be collected, treated, and further purified for new water production. Next slide. And by way of next slide. Yeah. By means of a circular economy, new water has also basically closed the water loop and enables Singaporeans to reuse water in the endless cycle. So we look forward to the completion of the Tuas Nexus in 2027, the world's first greenfield facility to digest both wastewater, sludge, and food waste to produce biogas. which in turn power the co-located waste to energy and water reclamation plants. Next slide. And this shows some of the many global MNCs that in the water space that have actually set their presence here in Singapore. Next slide. So Singapore clearly now is a place where knowledge and capability for the entire water value chain can be found. Singapore's particular specialities lies in urban water systems, potable reuse, and seawater desalination. So it is a home to vibrant and thriving ecosystem with over, I think, something like 2,000 water companies spanning the entire water value chain. Next slide. And in terms of water research, NTU and NUS are ranked top 2 amongst the world's top universities. So, and Singapore is a home to 6 of the top 30 thought leaders in water research. It's really quite elite. And among them, Nanyang Environmental and Water Research Institute, newly comprises almost 200 researchers and scientists. Next slide. And last but not least, I would like to just take a bit of time here to share about the Singapore Water Association. So SW was actually formed back in February 2004. Actually, it has a trade association to represent and promote the interests of companies in the water sector. But since then, it has played a fairly significant role in developing a vibrant and dynamic water cluster, and aspire to promote Singapore as the regional and even global hub for all water-related services and technologies. And today, we have 286 members from the initial 9 founding members back in 2004. And we are, as we have the aspiration to grow this 300 members by end of this year. Next slide. And in terms of international partnerships, we have many MOUs signed with, foreign entities, embassies, and this just some of the examples here covers Canada, covers Germany, Taiwan, even the US. And today we also have very good close working relationship with Netherlands, UK, Israel, and even Denmark. So moving on, we hope to foster our existing collaborations with regional water associations across the world, and also in our part of the world, as in ASEAN and also Australia. Next slide. And for the past 70 years, SW has organized and led local companies overseas to participate in trade fairs under the Singapore Pavilion with grant support from Enterprise Singapore. So hopefully next year, we will gear up the roster of trade shows when I think restrictions on travel are gradually lifted. Regionally, SW organized overseas technology and business missions in Munich, Israel, Taiwan, Melbourne, Nanjing, Vietnam, Myanmar, Indonesia, Thailand, and Philippines, while we hosted conferences and seminars, of course, for the local water companies. Next slide. So this is just a sample of the 2022 Trade Pavilion Business and Technology missions, which we'll all be planning, and we'll certainly be sharing our EDMs closer to the event dates. And next slide. And the Singapore International Water Week, of course, will be the first water show for 22, and after 3 years. And it's, of course, it's one of the leading water shows in Asia and the world. And this time it will be held in April, 18 to 21st at MBS. And as one of the leading international water events on urban water management, SIWW hopes to bring together all the global water leaders, experts, and practitioners to share and co-create innovative water solutions to meet the world's pressing water challenges. Next slide. Here is just to indicate to you some of the initiatives undertaken by SWA. Here I'm referring to the new initiative called SWAT or SWA Training, which is actually an online e-learning platform initiated and developed by SWA for the convenience of certification and continuous e-learning for water professionals and also O&M contractors using mobile and PC website access without a need for face-to-face interaction or site coaching. In fact, we are offering this to spec members at only $10 per year per user subscription. Next slide. And plans are also underway to launch a 24/7 SWA Digital Expo by end of this month, where it enhances user experience with Netflix-style booth browsing. digital name card exchange module, vendor portal, and registration module with sharing channels on both local grant support, local and overseas project opportunities, and local and overseas job posting. Trade visitors are certainly incentivized to exchange their name cards with the booth exhibitor. Every drop off actually earns a golden ticket, where 50 such tickets redeemed for free SWA individual membership for a year. And next, last slide here. I think to reaffirm Singapore's commitment to water security and sustainability, and together, I think emerging as a stronger water hub, I would strongly encourage startups, companies on the water value chain to join the SWA community. And of course, welcome. We certainly welcome any queries to the SWA Executive Office on all these new initiatives I talk about. So hopefully we can work together to grow the industry, ensure that Singapore remains a thriving, livable, climate resilient city for our future generation. And I certainly wish success in your discussion from December. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chew. I think, and then also, of course, thanks to the Executive Director of Singapore Water Association, Ms. Vivian Chong, for supporting this and bringing Mr. Chew on board for this. And definitely, I think Mr. Chew and Vivian has set a very high bar for the energy and power folks in this, workshop to learn from, which is actually to learn from the water story. Thank you again, Mr. Chew and
Thank you.
Vivian. Thank you. All right. So without further ado, allow me to introduce the next speaker. Is Dr. Tze Tiam Lin, who will be sharing with us on powering a sustainable future through technology and innovation. Dr. Tze is currently the Senior Director of IPI, an affiliate of Enterprise Singapore, set up to catalyze and enable enterprise to grow their business through technology and innovation. So Dr. Tze, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me put to slide. Let me just put the slide, pardon me. Yeah? Okay. Can you see? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to you. Thank you, Marcus and Spec, inviting me to share at this platform in conjunction with the SIEW. I think the opportunity is also a testimony of our partnership, which I'll elaborate more through the course of my slide. Thank you very much for the session. Now, as Marcus has alluded to, we are part of Enterprise Singapore, and our mission is really to be a catalyst that create opportunity for enterprise to grow beyond boundary. And I enjoyed this session because we see technology and innovation as boundary spending. It's not just in energy, you have other related industry like water, food, and certainly much other area. So IPI, we sort of accelerate company process in their innovation journey through our ecosystem as well as advisory support. Excuse me. Let me use the next slide. So how do we support company in this journey? Essentially, if you look at it, we create platform and services to accelerate. On the extreme left, we drive open innovation by helping companies look at technology scouting, landscape study, and even challenges that we hope to solicit solvers from our community. The advisory program, it is a very delicate program to help company, and I'll expand it shortly. Our innovation marketplace is a one-stop shop for you to look for technology, not only in the sector of energy, but other sectors as well that will complement to your work like IoT or other areas. And of course, our network access and knowledge sharing. Let me go into some particular detail here for to be more engaging. So in terms of industry, as I mentioned to you, we are boundary spending from healthcare to electronics at the top to manufacturing. And down further down is energy, environment, food, nutrition, logistics, material, infocom, and personal care. Where I personally have experienced over the last 10 years, if not 20 years in technology and commercialization, some of these innovation come at the junction of two intersecting industry. And people are now sort of converging to look at what this person do or the technology they develop, can it be used in my industry as well? And this is where truly I see a lot of game changer in the innovation space. In terms of how we support not our industry, I have over the 10 years together with my team built a global innovation network that spans from Europe all the way to Asia and down south to New Zealand and Australia. So these are my Global Innovation Node, where I reach out to them for some of my technology needs, and they, through their network, help me curate solvers that could support our enterprise need. Yeah. Just by way of example, so extreme left is a simple example where we match even companies like OSIM to simple vital sign monitoring to enable them to really develop a stress sensing in the world first 5 kinds of sensor well-being chair, which of course is now in the market. So I matched them in 2017, product came in 2020, and I heard they're making good sales with all these lockdowns staying at home. In the area of food, we help companies look at food upcycling, where they have spent grains and how we could upcycle it for better usage. And certainly in the area of mobility, working with a local company who have software to find them European partner who are in hardware to fast track their innovation opportunity. There are over 200 projects, 250 actually we have done, and many of these are listed on our website if you like to get more detail. So we encourage you to work with us for a few reasons. Firstly, we are sort of neutral. We are largely sort of based on what industry or demand side, and once company have certain technology needs or innovation need, after understood it, we will sort of pan out both locally and across the world to find what is suitable or relevant to them. So we are not biased by one particular organization technology. In terms of people, we have sort of multidiscipline, and of course they have insight into technology and commercialization or open innovation. And last but not least, I mentioned we have a network, that could support this effort. So very quickly, as a quick summary of company who wants to embark on their innovation journey, if you are looking for technology, we have our marketplace, we have our open innovation tech scouting activity. If you're looking for technical expert, we have curated over 100 experts in different domains that you can also engage them. And last but not least, an innovation advisor. So let me go through them very quickly without, So I mentioned to you a marketplace where it's the first access point. You're looking for any technology, be it IoT, blockchain, or, food related or energy related. Check in on our portal for your solutioning or technology. Or if you don't have, we have also a placeholder for you to seek for technology through our, technology need request that you can put up. We have experts, as I mentioned to you, that you can leverage across sectors in regulations, in clinical trials, and different areas to help accelerate your innovation. Now, the Innovation Advisor program is more recent, the last 2 years. Over the last 10 years, IPI have been doing transaction, helping companies just to get in technology. But we also increasingly see company, and this program is primarily target local company, SME, who want to go beyond just having a technology or product. They want to get into market, the strategic intent of commercialization and market outreach. So here we have a group of industry veterans, at least 25 years, who will become your bouncing board at your board level to say that if I've developed this product, would it get into this particular, application, customer, and market as well. So we have this industry veteran to whom you can consult. If you're interested, we can take it offline. And certainly there are corporates out there who are attending this meeting. We are one of the many operators that does Open Innovation Challenge. So if you have problem statements that you want to get solved from around the world, from around our network, we do that. So we do that even in the area of design think tank on your left, all the way to sustainability, to trade connectivity, and to even food and beverage. So we have more than 25,000 in our network to whom you can reach out to. And for those of you who think you have technology, you think you can solve some of these solvers, do subscribe to our alerts as well, so we can keep you updated in areas that are relevant to you. And I shall wrap up my session here to share with you and thank you again, Aspect, for your collaboration. So I'm very pleased that IPI has been working closely with Specs. We have curated Specs member technology into our website as a way to help you promote, reach out to our international audience. So these are all the curated technology that comes under the Spec program. And I think I was pleased last year to also do a technology commercialization workshop to share about IP management and commercialization. And I'm very encouraged. I'm always very encouraged. It's not just, there are quite a lot of attendees. And I think the interaction, the learning is very mutually satisfying. And I know there are also follow-up on some of the commercialization issues that SPEC members face, right? And last but not least, again, for your participation in Tech Innovation 2021, this is our annual flagship event where we curate technology from around the world. And after the event, your technology will cycle back through my portal. So you could have at least a few years of more exposure of your technology, not only at Tech Innovation, but certainly at our portal. With that, I kind of conclude. And thank you again, Marcus and team, for inviting me to this session.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Si. Thanks for being very patient in guiding the SPECS members on IP management and licensing. Is really appreciated. Thank you for that. All right.
My pleasure. Okay.
So with that, for our next speaker, we have Dr. Chiam Sing Yang, who is also the director of, just a minute, the director of Singapore Battery Consortium, presenting on research, development, and translation of battery technologies. Dr. Chiam was appointed the director for the Singapore Battery Consortium in November 2019, currently a group with 30 industry members and about 56 academic members. As a consortium lead, he helps formulate the strategy and direction for battery-related development for Singapore through close interaction with all the consortium members. Dr. Chiam, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. Can you hear me and see the slides?
Yes, we can hear and see the slide. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So I think, firstly, thanks to Marcus and SPECS for having us here. Real pleasure. I think we work very closely with SPECS, not only because they are sister consortium, but I think our areas have a lot of room where we can work closely together. So I think today I'm going to talk a little bit about batteries and hopefully to make maybe two general points. The first one is about battery tech translation in general. And the second one, introduce a little bit about Singapore Battery Consortium. So as you know, I think battery itself, many times we say is a component, and that word sometimes have, I think, a negative connotation to it. So I like to see it as a platform. It's really an enabling platform without which many things cannot happen. And I think two key points here. In terms of energy, I think batteries allows portability. In terms of energy, battery allows control. And with that, you get a whole platform that allows you to go into many different applications, allows you to optimize flow of energy as well. So I think it will be more and more pervasive. And I think the first thing is where does Singapore stand in terms of, let's say, battery-related technologies? So if you look at our universities, if you look at our research institutes, our publications are actually not that bad. We rank about in the top 15 in the world. But if I flip the information around to look at publications per capita, and actually then we go to the top of the table. Then patents as well. We have a good number of patents in Singapore in the battery tech. So this is both from private and public sector. And of course, then if you look at it globally, we are a little bit small. That's because most of the patents in the battery space then comes from the industry sectors, especially in the automotive space. And to look at battery innovations, I think we have to look and understand a little bit on the battery value chain, and that's where sometimes the consortium likes to focus on. So if you look at this, slide over here, we classify this into perhaps a few main parts. The first one is in battery materials and cells, and this one we're looking at starting really from raw materials processing to the active materials, the cathode and anode. You're looking at supplies of foil, supplies of separators to make the cells in the end. So I think that's one value chain. Another set of value chain then comes to the pack side. You're looking at components for the packs. You're looking at the BMS. You're looking at the sensors. You're looking at the housing. And that forms you, in the end, the modules and packs. So of course, some companies, especially the big ones, are quite vertically integrated. So they might combine these two in the single value chain. And then you go to product end players as well. They might be off-takers, but they are important value chain players in determining where the battery will be used. And all this, in many different steps, you will need testing, you need inspection, you need certification. That's where some of the other industry players comes in. And the last area, then we're looking at recycling and repurposing. And more you'll see that in the recycling and repurposing space, it feeds back to the value chain. Whether the used materials goes back to make new cells, more and more you'll see that packed materials itself needs to be more recyclable. I think the target moving forward will be something like 90%. And then repurposing as well then goes back to potential reuse and repurposed products. So, and then where are we in terms of the innovation space? And I think if you look at, for example, consumer devices, then they're very mature. The adoption is very prevalent. But then if you look at another space such as e-mobility, then there's still a lot of space for the tech to improve on, because we are really in our early days. If you look at adoption rates for electric vehicles, the most advanced one will, for example, be Norway. And they're also really on still on the upward trend. And for many countries itself, we are just starting. We are this is a quite a commonly used adoption curve by Roger and Moore. And the early innovators and visionaries will have to cross the chasm that is often affected by many different things: funding, opportunity, where the market might shift. So this is where I think technology plays an important role, and where innovations in the technology space can really make a difference in how the trends might go. So I think specifically for e-mobility, I would say that there's not only ambition globally, there's also very significant action. And so this is a very important space that we are watching. And so what are the challenges that we still can work on, especially at the battery technology level? And I highlight 4, which I think many of you will be familiar with. The first one, of course, is in performance. And within that, there's really a very big space. Power energy density is one, but also charging speed, also lifetime of the battery, and the space that we are focusing on a bit is looking at solid state electrolyte, how to look at battery pack design, for example, in terms of cell to pack design, thermal management as well. Safety is very important. In any adoption cycle, you see that any bad news about, let's say, battery safety related fire is going to derail some of this uptake of the technology as well. So in safety, you're looking at potentially using technology to prevent propagation of fire, to mitigate, and importantly, predictive part will be more and more important. So we're talking about battery analytics, and battery analytics is going to be a increasingly important area that we need to focus on. And whether you can predict catastrophic failure, I think will be a key turning point in terms of the tech development. And then in terms of sustainability, there will be a very big focus on this, I think, in the near future as well, especially in Europe, starting to look at mandating amount of recycled materials in the batteries that they will use, looking at tracking battery in terms of battery passport. So then, of course, we include recycling, repurposing, but also then production emissions. That's very important. That forms a big part of the emission for, let's say, electric vehicle, and that has a tremendous potential to be reduced. And lastly, of course, and very importantly, cost in all advancement for technologies and challenges as well for adoption, and comes back to cost. And innovation plays a key role, whether you can replace expensive materials used, whether you can automate, and whether you can really have new approaches in how you want to both manufacture and use battery-related products. So the battery trends we talked about, just to give a historical perspective, has been really improving. I think since more than about 10 years ago, you're looking at a cost of battery that is more than 10 times what you have, about 10 times of what you get today. And that is brought about by discipline in the manufacturing, but also improvements in the tech itself. So if you look at gravimetric energy density is improving by about 10 watt hours per kg per year. So at the pack level, this goes to about 7 watt hours. So we're talking about, of course, in this case, packs in e-mobility, the bigger packs. And we do expect this trend to continue, and we do expect this to make a significant difference then in adoption of cleaner electric vehicles. Then to introduce the consortium a little bit, currently we have about 32 members, and we're looking at members from across the value chain, from MNCs, SMEs to startups. I think we have a very good community of industry players, but also from the Institute of Higher Learning side, the universities, the polytechnics. It really helped a lot whenever there's problem statements, let's say, coming from the industries. So beside this, of course, we also work closely with many of our partners that are here as well, IPI, Specs, for example. So very shortly, for the consortium in numbers, we mentioned about membership. We looked at curating monthly mailers and quarterly newsletters for members. We have exclusive publications, especially in the area of battery tech. So, for example, the one we did last year was on battery repurposing. That will be made available to public after SU. And the one for members exclusive that will be published hopefully within a month's time is on cathode active materials. But that's something that we do for our members. And more importantly, we are looking at the public-private partnership projects. It's very important to look at pushing and advancing battery-related technologies. A little bit about how the battery consortium works. And I've sort of mentioned some of this previously. There's one way that we look at innovations through problem statements. So one way is, for example, for our members, is they have very clear problem statements in what they want to solve. I will facilitate that by picking on the brains of our IHL members, picking on the brains of other companies, if allowed. Then we solution this. Then we try, and if needed, we try to find a way to resource this. And this has been one approach. And in the second way, which what I call ecosystem derived, these are usually collective. And we hear common set of issues from the companies. Need not be exactly the same, but they are in similar areas. That's where collectively we can come together to try to form a big research program, for example, to address some of these problems. And so that is what I call the ecosystem derived. And for innovation driven, then this is more from the IHL side. I think from the universities and research institutes, they have either ready IPs or they have ideas that they want to validate with and upstream research that they want to try on. I think this is where the consortium helps by trying to not only seek inputs from our members, but also do a little bit of background market research, IP landscaping to help the team prepare and to help the team go to the right direction so that the results from the research can be useful for our members and companies at a later stage. And the last one, in terms of external opportunities, this is where, for example, external grant costs comes in. We rally around the external grant costs. Or for example, I think there's specific instance, for example, where Specs Consortium comes in with different ideas and problem statements, and that's where we also rally around this. We try to solution as well, and we try to see how to work together to push the technology developments. So overall, the consortium, as I mentioned, focus on the three areas in battery materials and cells, and modules, reuse, and recycling. So I think in today's session, I hope I've made a point that battery technology development, are very mature in some sectors, still has a lot of room for improvement in others. So there's still quite a lot of work that we can do. And this really is an enabling platform. And in doing that, it means it can go into many different applications. And Secondly, I hope that I've convinced that the Singapore Battery Consortium is a good platform and avenue for you to think about battery technology related developments. I welcome you to contact us. Feel free to reach out to me personally as well. We'll be very happy to have a chat with you on battery related discussions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chiam, and definitely has been very helpful. And definitely we'll also look forward to having more projects hosted between SBC as well as SPECS jointly in 2021 and 2022. Thank you, Dr. Chiam. So our next speaker is Professor Lee Po Seng, the Program Director of Cooling Energy Science and Technology Consortium. In short, it's called Coolers SG. Professor Lee's primary research interests are modeling and experimental investigation of high-performance cooling techniques, energy-efficient air-conditioned systems, and low-grade waste heat recovery. The technologies developed by his group can be used to improve the energy efficiency and reduce the CO2 emission of data centers, buildings, and industrial applications. Now he will share his presentation on creating opportunities for enterprise to grow through technology and innovation. Professor Lee, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. First, I'd like to show my appreciation to SPECS for organizing this session and inviting Coolers SG to do our sales pitch. Okay. Yeah, I'll run it through some of the slides very quickly because I think the previous speaker has actually covered the general framework for consortium, which is very similar, right? So I think what we're having is more or less along the same thinking about actually getting industry members to contribute problem statements and actually identifying the relevant researchers, not just within a particular university or research institute, but rather drawing from the best expertise residing in the Singapore research ecosystem so that we can work closely with companies to co-develop solutions, right? Not only just the upstream R&D phase, but also downstream demonstration, deployment, leading to the eventual commercializations. Yeah, so the motivation for Coolers SG is to respond to the increasing need to cool and the need to do it sustainably, right? Thereby helping to mitigate the effects of the urban heat island effects, and which is a rate very severe due to global warming, right? So that's why I think if we can do our part, right, in terms of reducing the cooling demand, right, by coming up with a more innovative and efficient cooling solution, I think that will be something that will be helpful. The other is actually to close the innovation gap through interdisciplinary cross-fertilization of ideas and expertise, which I have briefly alluded to, right? Because again, when they look at any the so-called energy grand challenges, right, typically it's actually multidisciplinary in nature. So that's why there's a need to adopt a collaborative and coordinated approach. And I think that's pretty much what all the consortiums are trying to do, including Coolers SG. And in the process, to unlock pathway leveraging on clean renewable energy, right, include also that of AI digitization, so as to seize the opportunity beyond our borders. Because a lot of our consortium members actually have aspiration beyond the Singapore shore. So that's why we also want to assist them in sort of growing the business, right? For example, into the Southeast Asia region or even to the greater APAC region. And last but not least, strengthening the human capital in cooling energy science and technology. Because as we embark on various collaborative projects with our industry partners, we will also be training the specialist manpower, right? So if let's suppose we don't find avenues for such specialist manpower to have gainful employment after the project, then it will be frankly quite a waste. So that's why we are really looking at the entire value chain, right? Not just the R&D project itself, but also the life after the R&D projects. So this slide is actually very much related to what I just mentioned, the motivation for the setting up Coolers SG. So you look at here in Singapore, right? So in terms of cooling energy consumption, right, in the year 2010, is actually 385,000 terajoules, and it's actually projected that this will increase by 73% to a level of 667,000 terajoules in 2030. And this is not surprising because Singapore is actually the country with the highest per capita install rate of air conditioning system among ASEAN member states. But if you look at the Southeast Asia region, right, there's a similar increase or increasing demand for cooling, right? So you look at the aircon electricity demand, right, in 2010 is about 25%, or rather now, 2010 to 2020 is about 25%. And by 2040, we're actually projecting an increase up to 40%. So that's also kind of close to a 70+% increase. So if we don't actually find sustainable ways of actually addressing this cooling demand, we will actually becomes a state whereby it's not cool without energy efficiency, because as we operate cooling systems, right, you need to actually dump the heat to the ambient, right? So that is certainly not helpful in terms of the climate change or even in terms of livability, right? So that's why there's this drive to develop innovative and sustainable cooling solutions. So Coolers actually, like all other consortium, is really trying to create a synergistic platform to accelerate, in our case, cooling integrated design and technology development, and to promote the technology transfer by bridging the gap to commercialization. Because you look at the traditional modes of conducting R&D leading to commercialization, it's actually very serial ways. So meaning it's actually in series. But this approach means that the whole gestation period from upstream R&D all the way to the downstream commercialization, deployment, implementation will take extended time, right? So the purpose of actually setting a consortium is actually to fast track a lot of this process, and if possible to parallel track a lot of the process, right? So for example, instead of waiting for technology to develop, then getting the industry members to come in to look into the subsequent commercialization, we want our industry partners to come in as early stage as possible. In fact, at the problem definition stage, right? So that we can actually jointly formulate the solution, right? Taking into account the integration issues, right? The scaling up issues, the business model issues, right? So that there will be a greater possibility of actually translating all the wonderful R&D outcome into practical solutions that actually benefit our industry. So this is pretty much what I've just mentioned, the journey, starting with the identification of industry relevant topics. And we do this through the industry, the stakeholder engagement, right? We have actually conducted a lot of industry roundtables to get a sense of what the industry needs, not only in the immediate so-called present, right? But also what will be their need in the next 5, 10, 20 years. Right, and then to sort of identify the relevant researchers so that they can actually work closely with our industry members to jointly formulate solutions. Then we can actually apply for funding, right, to embark on the RD&D, right, the research development and demonstration projects, right, leading to test bedding in the real world environment, right? For example, if you're looking at data center cooling solution, the plan is really to test it all the wonderful solution, not just in a lab-based environment, but in an actual production data center environment. And in this process, actually helping to accelerate the commercialization. Okay, so there are actually a couple of domains that's actually highlighted in this slide, but I wouldn't actually go into the details, right? But basically, we started off focusing on building cooling and data center. Now we're actually talking to various potential partners to look into extending our cooling solutions for power plants and manufacturing plants. So these are very briefly mentioned as well. So I've actually conducted a lot of in the industry or stakeholder engagement, and in the process that help us identify what are the different solutions that are of interest to our industry members and the wider industry. So this is actually a snapshot of the members, the industry members that the Coolers SG has currently, and we are constantly talking to more potential members, actually trying to bring them into this platform so that we can actually work collaboratively to develop more innovative and sustainable cooling solutions. And this is the research performers. They are currently on board. So pretty much all the major universities and research institutes in Singapore are actually part of Coolers SG. So a little bit on the membership, but I wouldn't want to go into the details. So basically, we have actually different tiering of members, and associated with different tiering, then the fees will different, the benefits will be different as well. Okay, so maybe I'll conclude with this. So basically, what we're trying to do is actually the concept of the sharing of resources and sharing outcomes, right? And with the pool membership fees, we can actually look into, for example, conducting the SIP projects, pretty competitive work, right? Thereby actually allowing the outcomes to be shared among our consortium members. So the other category is actually what we call member director projects. So it's actually more the one-to-one in nature. And we can actually be leveraging on the presentation.
All right, thank you, Professor Lee. And that has been very informative information on Coolers SG, and not forgetting Mr. Peter Lincoln working behind the scene to support this activity. Thanks, Professor Lee, and thanks to Peter Lincoln as well. So our next speaker is Mr. Yen Lee, who will be sharing with us how local manufacturers benefit from industrial transformation and the opportunities within the manufacturing sector. Mr. Yen Lee is the Director of Membership and the Manufacturing Alliance Transformation Office at the Singapore Manufacturing Federation, driving adoption of Industry 4.0 in the manufacturing sector. He has facilitated projects worth more than $2 billion in mostly emerging markets, and has also developed numerous cluster strategies and competitive landscape studies. Mr. Yen Lee, please.
Thank you. You all can hear me. Thank you, Marcus,
yes,
for this quick introduction. Good, thank you. So, so I need to introduce myself. I'll just skip this slide since it's already mentioned. This is what I'm going to share with you all today. Basically, something about SMF, something about MATO, the Manufacturing Alliance Transformation Office, as well as where we are in this manufacturing space. Okay, so SMF. Okay, we started in 1932, close to coming to 90 over years. Yeah, and we are the trade association that champions manufacturing. Yeah. So what we do for our members, okay, we have all these initiatives that we help our members, about 5,000 members in all these activities. And all our members will fall into one of the 10 industry groups divided into 2 clusters. The engineering clusters, we have 5 of these industry groups here. You can see energy and chemicals is there. We also have a big group in the electronics, as well as the metals and machinery industry groups. Yeah. And then the other clusters are comprising of all the 5, we call it FMCG industries. Okay, so this also, they use up a lot of energy, yeah, especially the food. Okay. So that's about SMF. Now coming to manufacturing in Singapore, I believe you all heard, yeah, you all know that manufacturing has been on the uprise for the past many months until August. Then September last month, we reported a little dip, right? But the growth mainly is in transport, precision engineering, as well as general manufacturing include food manufacturing. Yeah. So of course other sectors is not mentioned because they're not doing that well. Okay. So during COVID, globally, all manufacturers, whether you're doing well or not doing well, you face all these problems. Okay, and this is also what our manufacturers are facing. Yeah, in Singapore, the main problem is supply chain disruption. Okay, even simple food manufacturers are getting eggs or from Malaysia, or flour from Australia. Okay, they're having all these problems. And the worst problem is when we go and visit the factory and they are all manual. Ordering of raw material is not linked to the production schedule, and when there's a delay in raw material coming in, it's not connected to their production line. That's where a lot of problem comes up. But they actually promise the customer to deliver the manufactured products in this time, that they couldn't make it. So there's a lot of liquidated damages that they got to pay to their clients, right? So this is what our manufacturers face, and more of them are seeing the need to digitalize, okay, and put more sensors in their in their production line. Okay, so this is also where MATO comes in. MATO, as in Manufacturing Alliance Transformation office. This is a government initiative set up by ESG, started in January this year. This is an alliance of 5 trade associations coming together. And this is the first of its kind that ESG has embarked on. We have a Singapore Business Federation, we have SPECTA, the Precision Engineering Trade Association, we have SIA, the Singapore Industry Automation people, as well as SGTech, where the members provide all the digital solutions. So 5 of us, we come together to help Singapore manufacturers transform and upgrade towards Industry 4.0. Okay, so as we go and visit our members, and factories, we realize that most of them have these problems in these 5 areas, and production planning, asset and labor management, quality control, warehousing, and inventory. Okay, inventory is the biggest problem, especially for the food manufacturers. Don't know why food is lost, missing. Okay, when they do their monthly stock take, it doesn't tally. There's a mismatch. So when you have a digital solution, you put camera, visual inspection, everything, all these problems will be solved, but they just don't know where to start. So this is where Mato comes in and help them. On the right, you see all the 3 bullet point per pain area that we've identified, and we have all the solutions from the alliance members that we work with. Okay, so we go in there to the factory, we see their pain points, and we recommend solutions and vendors lah. Okay, so this is the short term that I just mentioned. The long term is, of course, we want to bring all these manufacturers, okay, to connect their factory, all the machines, the back end, the front end, the sales, the delivery, all must be connected, and that's where they can use data from these connections to make decisions for their factories. Okay, right now most of it is manual, right? Even you have CNC machine, it's not talking to another CNC machine, it's not even controlled from a control room. Yeah. So this long-term picture is actually an ideal situation that we want to bring and upgrade all our manufacturers to this level. Yeah. Okay, so what we can work with SPECS members is we're looking for solutions that if you all have any vendors, any solution providers that have IoT meters, flow trackers, energy sensors, and even predictive maintenance systems, so please talk to us. Okay, we are always open. We are always inclusive. Okay, so we are always looking forward to more collaboration for the purpose of helping our manufacturers to be better. Yeah. So with this, I'll end my presentation. Okay, and yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lee. And definitely, I think the SPECS member will be excited. This is an immediate offer for them to take it up. Thank you very much, Mr. Lee.
Yes,
all right.
Thank you.
So thank you. So with that, we would like to invite our next speaker is Dr. Ernie Teo, the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Didoco, as well as also he's the Vice Chairman of the Blockchain Association Singapore. He'll be presenting on the blockchain landscape in Singapore. Dr. Teo is active in the blockchain community in Singapore, giving talks and seminars both in the industry and at the universities. He is a pioneer of blockchain education in Singapore, who conceptualized and taught the first blockchain course as a part of a degree program at the National University of Singapore. Dr. Teo, please. Ernie, you got to unmute. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Good to talk to you about the blockchain landscape in Singapore. Right. So before I start, I want to give everyone a primer, because this is not really I guess the blockchain conference. So I would like to give everyone a primer on what is blockchain, quick primer. Right. So blockchain is in fact the underlying technology behind Bitcoin, which I guess a lot of us know by now. There's this cryptocurrency that is very speculative, or you can make a lot of money from. Right. So the underlying technology that was designed as part of Bitcoin is blockchain, and it was first conceived in 2008. So we are actually more than 10 years to the technology, right? So it was written in a white paper, Bitcoin peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Today, more than 10 years later, the Bitcoin's GitHub repo have about 57,000 members. So a lot of people make use of this code, to do their own projects, to look at the code and come up with their own innovation. So it definitely contributed a lot to this industry. Right, so what is blockchain actually? It is a sequence of blocks which holds the complete record of transactions on a public ledger. Right. So every node, so you can imagine it's a network of servers, right? And every server is a node. So every node is participating in the blockchain will hold a copy of the ledger, therefore it's a replicated database. Everybody holds the same copy, and no one can independently change this database. So the whole network maintains consistency by using consensus algorithms. So some of you may have heard of Bitcoin mining. That's one form of consensus algorithm. So, and that will actually create the incentives and create a protocol to get everyone to be aligned in terms of keeping the ledgers consistent across the whole network, and then to be aligned in terms of adding new transactions to the ledger as well. Right? So that is the fundamental idea of blockchain. And blockchain is actually, so the name blockchain refers to blocks of data that are being chained up to the previous blocks. So, so the blockchain is a sequential database, right? So it goes, it's historical, right? So every set of transactions are grouped into a block, and a signature of that set of transactions is appended to the next block, and so on and so forth. So every block will have a signature of the previous block. So if someone tries to tamper with this database or attempt to change the data, it is quite obvious that the chain will be broken, and we know when tampering has occurred. And if I want to really hack into this and change the data of the entire blockchain network, I will need to convince the entire network to actually update the blockchain and change the data, which is very hard. So blockchain gets this kind of very interesting feature of immutability, or that the data cannot be easily changed. Now, who is using blockchain? So these are some surveys that was done between 2018 and 2020. Global spending on blockchain solutions was estimated to be about $4.3 billion in 2020. In the survey by Deloitte, about 52% of Singaporean executives say that their organizations are hiring blockchain staff. And in another survey by PwC, 32% of companies answered that they are in development stage when asking how far along they are with their involvement in blockchain. 10% are in the pilot phase, and 15% are already going live. So this survey was done in 2018. Now fast forward, a lot of these projects have in fact gone live. And we see a lot of news over the past couple of months from banks, for example, which talks about implementation of coin networks, right? Blockchain-backed coin networks that allow settlement between banks, etc. Now, one important thing to remember is actually blockchain is not just Bitcoin or not just cryptocurrencies. There's a lot of applications of blockchains that are very interesting. In the enterprise world, the big areas are supply chain and manufacturing, food safety, healthcare, and smart cities, and more. So a lot of implications for people in the audience in terms of smart cities, right? Smart energy trading can be done on blockchain, management of electricity, electrical networks. Of course, another big area that is in focus over the past year is the idea of central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs for short. So CBDCs have gone into production in some countries. Some countries have chosen to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender. right? And even in Singapore, the MAS this year during their FinTech Festival has a hackathon topic of retail CBDCs, and a lot of major banks, large organizations are participating in this hackathon. Of course, we can't ignore finance as an important area of application for blockchain as well. So other than the cryptocurrency side of things, trade and supply chain financing is also a very big area, as well as payments and settlement. Now with blockchain comes also a potential for disruption in the financial space, and that's when we have the idea of decentralized finance. Some of you may have heard of this term DeFi. So the idea is to totally decentralize or disintermediate banks and other types of financial institutions. Right, so to have these kind of services running as code on the blockchain and having the code manage assets and manage finances instead. So we have big areas in this lending and borrowing, wealth management and investments. Because another big topic you may have heard of during the past year when it comes to blockchain is the concept of NFTs or non-fungible tokens. Right, so tokenization or digital assets is also a very big area that is very, very much of interest now because there's a potential to earn a lot of money in this field. Of course, digital art is definitely one of them for NFTs, but they can also be applied to a lot of other areas such as tokenization of equity or commodities, tokenization of properties like real estate, stable coins, energy credits, and more. Now let's look at some applications of blockchain for energy specifically. Right, so here we see in Lucknow, in India, there is a blockchain. So there's a blockchain launch now for solar power trading. Right, so it will be like a network, so a network of people running solar panels, right, and being able to commoditize the energy that they generate and sell it down or trade it with other people. Another big company in this area is Power Ledger. Right? So Power Ledger has been doing a lot of energy trading type blockchain trials. In 2020, they did one in the US, right? And they have many potential future projects, right? So Power Ledger is an Australian firm. They have deployment in other countries, including France, Japan, and India. Here's the third piece of information I want to share about blockchain finance. So we have Steve Wozniak. For those of you who recognize the name, he is one of the founders of Apple. His newest venture is a cryptocurrency energy efficiency startup. So this startup basically invests in energy efficiency projects around the world, and it's a crowdfunding project so that makes use of cryptocurrency. So you buy these coins to invest in these projects, and you get a return or share of these profits if they make money. So now let's turn our attention to what is happening with the blockchain landscape in Singapore? Where are we? So Singapore is in fact a global hub for blockchain adoption across global industries, and all these adoption will affect how Singapore's business, right? Because large MNCs are going to adopt blockchain. So we're going to have currency that can be traded on blockchain. Right? So of course our government agencies have a very keen eye on this. The Monetary Authority of Singapore MAS have an active interest in the blockchain space. They ran a project called Project OBI over 5 years that looked at interbank cryptocurrency and the settlement and the use of it between banks and across regions. We also have the Payment Services Act. So MAS recently launched this act, and the act considers digital payment services providers, including token offerings as part of payment services. Of course, like I mentioned, the Singapore FinTech Festival also have a lot of activities around blockchain. So many key speakers are in the blockchain space, and of course the hackathon also have involves blockchain. And so if we look at the other side of the government, the IMDA, the Infocom and Media and Digital Authority, and GovTech, our tech arm of the Singapore government, have multiple blockchain initiatives. And the IMDA Blockchain Challenge, which has been inviting industry to submit projects. And IMDA and GovTech together have a project called Trade Trust, which is actually a interoperable blockchain layer to share trade documents between different networks. There's also a project called OpenCert, or now called Open Attestation, which started as a project to digitize educational certificates to put it on the blockchain. The major educational institutions in Singapore, including NTU, NUS, and the major universities, all participated in this. New graduates have their degrees issued digitally and put on the blockchain network. So they're given a digital file where they can actually be digitally verified on the government's network. And you can verify the authenticity of the degree, and you can even look at the transcript. Okay, OpenCert has now expanded to a much more interesting use, which is vaccine system, and I'll talk a bit about that. A $12 million blockchain innovation program was also launched by IMDA in December 2020. And this goes towards funding research projects, deep research projects in this space. There are many MNCs involved in enterprise blockchains, and they have regional HQs or labs in Singapore. So the ecosystem is very vibrant there. Associations like the Blockchain Association of Singapore are actively contributing to the ecosystem. Banks like DBS are launching digital currency exchanges. The MAS has started issuing payment services license to digital token providers. And we have a vibrant startup ecosystem and with incubators like Club Accelerator and all. And so this is a map of the members of the Blockchain Association of Singapore. So our association is actually relatively new. We are a product of a merger between two associations in April 2020. And today we have 100 over members as of October. And if you look at our members map, you see that we don't only have Bitcoin startups or cryptocurrency exchanges. We have large companies being involved as well, such as providers like AWS, Huawei, IBM. Right? We also have banks that are involved, like Standard Chartered, educational institutions that are involved. Right? So Singapore really is quite vibrant in terms of the blockchain sector. So, for example, the Temasek Group is involved in Facebook's Libra currency. So now it's called DMC. They have changed their name system, right? And they are one of the earliest to announce that they are supporting this initiative. More recent news, DBS, JP Morgan, and Temasek Group have partnered to create a blockchain payments platform. The company is named Partium. They just launched, I think, quite recently. And they'll be leveraging blockchain technology to digitize commercial bank money. And the idea is to reduce all the frictions, like how long it takes and how expensive it is to send money from country to country, right? And reduce the time delays in cross-border payments, trade, and currency settlements. On another front, IMDA together with UOB have digitized Singapore to China cross-border trade loans, right? So they just recently announced as well this month, right? That they have conducted a pilot on the electronic exchange of trade documents, and to lower the turnaround time for processing of trade documents and title transfers, plus also lowering transaction costs. And this is based on the trade trust, which I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I think a very relevant topic of interest for everyone now is to put your COVID tests as well as now I think they are looking at COVID vaccine passport as well, where they will put your test results or your vaccine results on the blockchain, which allow multiple parties to be able to verify this by scanning a QR code or using application on your phone, where you can show immigration and customs authorities when you travel to other countries. On the educational institution front, CoinDesk, which is one of the most reputable online media public website for cryptocurrency, has recently done a ranking of the top 2 universities for blockchain education. And that's ranking number 1, and as well as NTU ranking number 11. And so Singapore is definitely a very prime location to be educated in the blockchain. That almost brings me to the end of my talk. So as part of the Singapore FinTech Festival, the Blockchain Association of Singapore is holding SG Blockchain Day. This will be held on November 2021. It is free to register. If you are interested to find out more about blockchain, I'll be sharing with all the participants, so you can register later on as well. Right, so the blockchain day will be a whole day of program covering all sorts of different areas in blockchain, including enterprise blockchain today, as well as the research topics of NFTs or CBDs. So the next segment after me is actually the MOU signing between NTU as well as the agenda. MOU is to foster closer relations between industry and academia. We definitely like to work closely with NTU as exploring not just with specs, but also broader with our NTU itself. Very interested to look at how we can help with regarding placements and student internships, or even graduate placements, working with the school to bring real life relevance. I shall now hand over back to Marcus, and we will go first with the MOU side.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Teo. Now we are into the last event for this session 1, which is the Blockchain Association of Singapore and Nanyang Technological University Singapore MOU virtual signing with blockchain technologies. So please allow me to introduce our signatories. First, Professor Subo Haisaka, the President's Office, the NTU Associate Vice President, Strategy and Partnership from the President's Office. He's also a Professor of Material Science and Engineering, and also the Executive Director of Energy Research Institute, in short called ARIAN. And the other one is actually representing the Blockchain Association of Singapore is Mr. Chia Hock Lai, who is the co-chair of BAS, to sign off the MOU of this blockchain. So please allow me to introduce Prof. Subo to have a 1-minute speech, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Ernie. It's really a pleasure to be here. I think this week has been, the highlights of this week has been the Energy Week. And in particular, what has been in the spotlight is the energy transition. As you know, a significant portion of the energy transition will rely on renewable energy. It will rely on energy that we'll import, the energy that we generate locally, and embedded in all of this is the need to trade energy, to verify that the energy is from renewable energy sources, and also allow peer-to-peer trading. So for all of these transactions, I think blockchain will play a very critical role, and most of the platforms that will enable the energy trading would necessitate the use of blockchain. So it's really my pleasure to be here with the Blockchain Association and sign this partnership that will promote the use of blockchain in energy-related sectors. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Subo. Maybe have Mr. Chia Hock Lai to turn on his camera and mic to have his 1-minute speech, please. Mr. Chia.
Thanks, Dr. Koh. Blockchain is not a hammer looking for a nail, nor a solution for every problem. It is particularly strong in use cases with multiple stakeholders, where the history of ownership and transactions are important, and that the intermediaries are not adding value. Given these characteristics, blockchain technology lends itself well in the energy sector, such as to facilitate peer-to-peer energy trading and to secure energy data and systems. We look forward to the collaboration with NTU Energy Research Institute and to facilitate partnership with our member base and to connect to the wider international blockchain community. We also welcome the SPEX community to join our annual SG Blockchain Day that will be held on the 12th of November, a full-day event of panels, keynotes, and masterclasses on the latest development on blockchain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chia. Now we would like to proceed with the MOU signed through the blockchain technology. So Professor Subo and Mr. Chia, can you please proceed to have your signature on the through your cell phone for this MOU through blockchain? And then please share for the attendees to see that it has been signed off. Then Dr. Ernie Teo will elaborate how the technology will work. So thank you, Professor Subo and Mr. Chia. So now we have the two witnesses, Dr. Ernie Teo and myself, to sign on the MOU. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll pass the time over to Dr. Teo to explain how this is going to be secure and that we no possibility to hack or change or cheat the system from here. Over to you, Dr. Teo.
The blockchain planning has been involved by company technology as well as the documentation on the series of evidence shows related to that which makes it tamper-proof, hard to change and alter. So no one can tamper with the PDF, for example, try to change one of the signatures or try to change the date and try to do something funny. So we have a verifier here that I'm going to show you with the document that we signed earlier. So once I drop the PDF file into this verifier, we will see our signatures here on the screen, as well as the time and dates and the IP addresses of when we have downloaded or when we have signed this document. And we will be able to view the documents as well over here. Right. Now, what if someone tampers with this document? So let me drop a file that is not verified, not signed through our platform here, and we will see that. For example, this file, we want to be verified. Okay, someone has to do the MOU that we signed. And we say that host BAS, $100,000 profit plan. When they run through the CME system, it hasn't been signed on our. There's no evidence related to that finish, and able to prove with the real document that it has been signed, and that is the content that we have. So that's what we are doing here with our development.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Teo. And with that, that ends this session for the Blockchain Association of Singapore and NTU MOU. Thank you very much, Professor Suho, and thank you very much, Mr. Chia. You can take your leave now. Thank you. So with that, we'll proceed with, before we take the break, there are a couple of information that I'd like to share. In addition to these sessions here, that we are talking about the MOU with BAS and NTU. There's also an announcement that we like to make here in this session, that is I hope you can see the slides. Just give me a minute. Right? Okay. So there is another Keppel Infrastructure and NTU MOU that was just that's gone through a press release 2 days ago on the 26th of October. So we are pleased to share that NTU and Keppel Infrastructure has agreed to work on these 4 areas on sustainability and lowering carbon emission for Singapore. So we welcome all the SPECS members to contact the program office, potentially to look for opportunity to work with Keppel Infrastructure and NTU as well. So feel free to contact the program office if you feel that there is, ideas that you have. We welcome you to come forward. So since we have a bit more time before the 3:30 session, I'll take maybe 5 minutes to share a couple of slides that we missed at the very beginning. First is on the SPECS introduction. I think that we like to thank our partner, especially the ACCM, which is an A-Star Collaborative and Commerce Marketplace, who has been very supportive of this initiative, bringing the idea forward and also bringing speakers to the session. So thanks ACCM for that. And of course, together with all the rest of the partners who are on this screen, that has, some of them has already shown up. So the second part of this, I would like to share a little bit about the SPECS program, where at this moment, we're happy to share there are 36 member companies with 27 networking events and workshops completed over the last 2.5 years. And at this moment, we are on our 3rd annual conference with more than 10 industrial translation projects completed. So all in all, the program itself has about achieved a total funding of about more than 50 million at this moment, with about more than 25 million of industrial research spending. So that should go well. I think thanks to all the industrial partners that have been supporting this program, and not forgetting the agency that has been doing a great part to help in this as well. Now, really what about SPECS is trying to do is about translational research and strategic partnership, so that the IHL will get an opportunity to offer the intellectual property to the industry partners to make commercially viable products, and that will help Singapore to win more market shares in the power and energy domain space. So with that, I think that I'll end session 1, and so we will convene our rest, and we'll come back at 3:30 for session 2, where Dr. Ding will convene that session. Thank you very much, and I'll see you shortly. Thank you.